Welcome to another day with Jankoti Live, the podcast dedicated to exploring authentic leadership, personal growth, and professional transformation with leading coaches and industry expert. I'm your host, and today we have a distinguished leadership coach who has helped countless executives and entrepreneurs achieve breakthroughs. Please welcome Arvind Khinvesra, ICF PCC Executive Coach, public speaking expert, corporate trainer, author, and founder of Archive with over 30 years of rich experience spanning manufacturing and IT sectors, including role at Accenture as SAP project manager and R&D manager. Arvind transitioned into full-time coaching from 2014. He's certified project management professional, PMP certified, NLP master practitioner, Hogan certified, and brings deep expertise into executive coaching, leadership development, emotional intelligence, and team transformation. Arvind has delivered impactful workshop, coached senior leaders, and impacted thousands of professionals across industries. Arvind, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So let's start with your journey a bit. We wanted to understand you had a successful corporate career in engineering and manufacturing and IT over 2 decades, right? What prompted your transition into becoming a full-time coach and leadership trainer?
Okay. Let me answer this in two parts. If I have to give you a bite-worthy quote, it's like I, in my engineering career, I was working with systems, and I believed if the systems are in place, the output would follow. But over a period of time, I realized even if two places have the same systems, it's the humans that drive the system and get the output. And that's the transition from knowing that only systems will not work, working with humans will work. Uh, that's a very nice answer to give, but maybe at a subconscious level, this is what was working. But at a conscious level, I would say it's a bit different. The reality is, I take life as it comes. I've always done that way. In fact, the fact that I got into engineering was also because I scored slightly better marks in my 10th standard. That's the reason I took science. That's the reason I got into engineering, and so on and so forth. And however, there have been times when the situations or the circumstances presented themselves in a manner that made me feel like it was trying to switch. And that's how the switches in my careers happened. And that's why, while I worked for more than 20 years in the industry, it was just mainly two companies or three companies. Uh, and that is when the situation made it happen. Uh, I'm a firm believer in terms of, you get signals or you get signs when things have to move. So this was in my last job as an IT professional, and the mind was already working into towards what else can I do. And around the same time, a cousin of mine, a cousin sister of mine, younger to me, in Chennai, we were sitting one day, and she just told me, Arvind, when I talk to you, I tend to get answers to all my problems. And my response was, but I never gave you an answer. And she said, I don't know, but we still feel comfortable. And that's when the thought triggered for me that uh, isn't this what coaching is all about? It's not about giving answers, it's about helping people find their answers. So that opened my thought process in terms of facilitation and coaching and all of that. Uh, so that's how my transition has been. All right. Life as it comes more often than not. But having said that, I also teach goal setting to people, and people might believe if that's the case, why do I need to set goals? Uh, well, it's not about setting goals about something in particular necessarily, while it helps. For me, the goal was in terms of no matter where I am I giving it my best?
Yeah,
Am I listening to what's happening around me? Am I listening to the inputs and the feedbacks that I'm getting? And that is what helped me fine tune or even listen to myself or my gut and say, this is where I want to go. So, yeah, taking life as it happens is one way of doing it, but that doesn't mean not doing anything. It's about focusing on what needs to be done, and then a better life happens, if I may say so.
yeah, very true. I think goal setting, focusing on the particular goal where you want to go and chasing that is all about the human nature, right? Yeah, with certification. So I'll go to the next section, like with certification like ICF, PCC, PMP, NLP, Master Practitioner. These are different certifications in different domain. You bring a unique blend of technical and human-centric expertise, right? How does your engineering and project management background influenced you coaching approach?
Yeah, that's another interesting aspect, and that's another interesting question that I get from people every time. How did you manage to switch from one career to another? And in fact, my daughter still keeps telling me, "You wasted your engineering knowledge, or you wasted your MBA knowledge, or whatever that may be." However, I have come to believe that no education goes waste because
Yeah.
you may not use the subject as it is, but what you learn as a process while learning those subjects is always stays with you, right? So for example, when I did engineering, it was all about understanding the system by itself, how each part contributes to the overall performance of the system. If something goes wrong, it's not about just putting a band-aid. It's about understanding what really is the problem. In my first job, I used to do a lot of troubleshooting for instruments that didn't work. And it was not just about going and saying, hey, this component doesn't work and just remove it and put it there. It was also about understanding, okay, which component is getting hotter than usual,
Yeah.
or what would be the cause for this. So it's about doing a lot of root cause analysis. And so that analytical skill, that troubleshooting aspect of it, that ability to look at system as a whole rather than just one part and just taking care of that. I think that's something that has helped me in coaching a lot, because if you come and tell me that I'm unable to delegate and I'm burdened with time, a very linear thinker would say, okay, let me teach you how to delegate. But the fact of the matter is, it's not that you don't know how to delegate. You have enough tools on the
Yeah.
across, and we are all knowledgeable enough to know how to delegate. You also want to delegate. That's not the problem. The problem is, could be rather, based on what I've come across with different people. Uh, Someone is worried, what if I teach this person and this person leaves and becomes my competitor or joins my competitor? Somebody might be worried, what if this person doesn't do as well as I do it and the customer gets angry? Somebody else might be worried that nobody can do it better than me. So the root cause is very different. While one may know how to do it, the root cause why somebody is not doing is very different. So that engineering aspect of going to the root cause helps me there. uh, While working through project management, I also realized that you may have a great system, but it cannot operate in silo. There are
Yeah.
different people who are getting. So that's where the systems thinking part comes in, where what I do here has an impact somewhere else. There are different people, there are different stakeholders. So even when I'm coaching someone as an individual, it helps me stay grounded in terms of, just because something worked for me, it didn't work for you, because maybe I'm in a different environment, I'm in a different culture, I work with different kinds of people, whereas your situation, your scenario, your context may be very different. So it's not about pushing answers, it's about helping you find answers that work for you in your relevant to your context. uh, because to give you an example, imagine, and this really happened, a client came to me and said, I want to get better at my presentation skills. And I said, what do you mean by getting better at presentation skills? And he said, I want my English to be better. And thanks to my learning about how systems operate, I said, can I talk to a manager first to understand what are his expectations? He said, yeah, you're fine to do that. I talked to his manager. And in the conversation, the manager said, you know what, I'm not worried too much about it. Not that I asked a direct question, but the conversation happened. I'm not worried too much about his English, because the audience to whom he's speaking, they also speak similar level of English. To me, what is more important is that he comes to the point. He doesn't beat around the bush. Can he speak very specifically? The point here is, if I were to go only by what he said, teach me English, how to speak better English, I could have done that. But would it have helped him in the system that he existed? Possibly no,
Mm.
right? And that's what it is. So it's not about finding a solution to a problem, it's about finding a solution to a problem in the context of the person. We may teach a lot of things. I may teach, when I go to corporates, I may teach a lot about delegation and stuff like that, how to do it and all great techniques. But if they belong to a culture where in the organization where you are expected to, and people are rewarded only by doing things by themselves, even if they know it, are they going to be able to use it or apply it?
True.
So, so that's where the project management aspect comes in handy. And of course, both these opportunities, uh, or scenarios also allowed me access to people at different levels from different cultures, uh, which helped me look at things from different perspectives, from different human centric perspectives, more than just an individual as an individual.
I think, yeah, you summarized what exactly different culture put impact onto the way the people are thinking. And possibly we have to understand the background before giving any solution. I think that's the way I think ideally should be incorporated, but yeah, we see a different way. So, coming back to just taking the same things forward, what are the most common challenges you see senior executive and high potential leaders struggle with today, especially in area like executive presence, emotional intelligence, and leading through the change?
Yeah, in fact, you named two already: executive presence, emotional intelligence, right? But to me, the top and the topmost is, if we look over the years, a person would be accepted as a leader purely on the basis of their expertise. Just because somebody was really knowledgeable, has spent a lot of years in that specific area, field, technology, and has built that expertise, one would accept them as a leader, because also it was assumed that the leader would show us the way.
Yeah,
And times have changed now. One, with the way things are expanding, with the way different fields are opening up, and the depth that we have in each field. One, it would be very difficult for someone to be an expert at everything. And as a leader, you're managing multiple areas, right? So I don't think it's really necessary to worry too much about expertise. Of course, expertise, if you have expertise in an area, it helps. It helps you build your credibility. But more important part is, instead of being an expert, can I be an expert in terms of getting the best out of people? As a leader, I don't think people any longer expect you to give answers for everything. But as a leader, if you ask the right questions to the right people, they will come up with the answers. And especially with the new generation that we are talking about, nobody now likes to be told what to do.
mm,
They would like to contribute to the solution. It's not the attitude issue. It's not about they just don't want to follow. It's about, well, I don't enjoy being told what to do, but if I'm part of the decision making, if I believe that I was also involved, I also contributed to the solution, I'm more engaged with it. And therefore, as a leader, it's about figuring out how can I get the best out of my team. An
yeah,
example I can share is, I had a leader who was going to moving to a different organization as the CEO, and one of his psychometric assessments had told that strategic thinking was not a great area, and the leader was worried, right? While I can turn around the system for the organization which I'm joining, the function for which I'm heading, I'm an expert at that. But when it comes to strategic thinking, that's something which I struggle with. And as a leader, I would be expected by the board of directors to give them that 5 year vision, stuff like that.
mm,
Uh, and we had a conversation. I'll not get into the details of the coaching conversation, but to sum it up, what emerged was, he had a team, right? He had a team of 15 people who were reporting to him. And again, as a tip, does not necessarily always work everywhere, but I just said, how about asking your team members to give you what is their next 5 year vision in their area of work, right? You may not
mhm.
be a great strategic thinker when it comes to building strategy from scratch, but you are a great execution person. So if 15 people were to give you vision, I'm sure once you have that trigger point, you're going to be able to develop a strategy. And if you like an individual strategy, maybe make that as a strategy for the entire function of the organization. It doesn't matter whose strategy it is, as long as it is helping the organization grow.
Yep,
And that's when he realized, yes, that's what it is. My expertise lies in making sure that once we decide what to do, I will get it done. It's okay to ask people around me to get what I lack. And therefore, we always say now, as a leader, don't worry about what my strengths are. You can leverage your strengths, but you can also take support of others in areas where you lack and work as a team. So that's one. Um, Expertise is good, but don't overrate it. The only expertise that you might want to have is, how do I get my people involved? How do I make them feel like they own the solution? And how do I get the best of what they bring to the table?
yeah,
The second area, like you rightly mentioned, is executive presence. And executive presence, It's not just about what I wear and the way I dress and the way I stand and the way I talk. It's more about, do people take me seriously, or do people trust me? Are they able to trust on the basis of what I say? Are they able to stay with me and they agree with that? Okay, my judgment. They uh, understand that if I decide something, it's meaningful, it's valuable, it has been thought through. That's executive presence for me. To me, executive presence is what people think of you in your absence, right? And communication is a big part of that. Uh, so I may be an expert, I may be great at my subject, but if I can't explain to my team, I may have a great vision, but if I cannot put it in a manner that my team understands, it doesn't help, because the team still doesn't know in what direction are we going, and therefore they cannot give their best. Um, as a leader, I have to influence without authority. Now, earlier days, it was like I'm your boss and you have got to do. These days, nobody treats you like a boss just because you're their boss. And secondly, it's not just that we are dealing with our teams; we are dealing with people
Yeah.
across. And so, how do you influence people even without having an authority over them? That's executive presence. So, communication is one area which I believe is very, very strongly required. More so now. Earlier, at least you were physically present in a room. Now, in the hybrid environment, why should somebody take you seriously?
Yeah.
And one thing I've realized, when when I teach public speaking to folks, I earlier used to market it as, if you not don't feel confident, if you're struggling to speak in front of people. Today morning, I just made a note. I should make an ad which says, also learn when to stop speaking.
Yeah.
That's also part of
Correct.
public speaking.
Correct.
So yeah, communication has to be crisp, articulate, to the point. That's when people take you seriously. The third part, of course, is your emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Right? It's about being able to understand where people are coming from. It's able to look at different perspectives. And the earlier question that you asked, right? How does engineering help you? I like to relate it conceptually to one subject that we had, was engineering drawing. So in
Oh God.
engineering drawing, we would have an object and we would draw it looking from three perspectives. So what appears as a line from one side would appear as a point from another side.
Correct.
And I think that's also a big part of emotional intelligence, in terms of, it's not just about what I believe or how I see it. Can I look at it from your perspective? We use a common term, empathy, for that, right?
Yeah.
um, can I look at things from your perspective? Why are you behaving the way you're behaving? Because that allows me to build that connect, to understand the other person much better, and that's what is a true sign of a leader. So I think these three for me are the top of the pyramid.
Great. Yeah, a lot of good insights over there. So possibly, I think I'll go towards the second side of that one. Uh, Going back to the challenges, right? So see, India has emerging from the service-based industry to the manufacturing base now. So there are two sectors of that one. Now there is a corporate and there is a small section of growth which is coming in startup. So senior executives are nowadays much more worried that the transformation change what startup brings can impact their corporate journey. How we can make that engagement such like that they can take up the transformation journey into their own cycle and can grow on that both the side of the either in the corporate cycle or in the startup cycle.
Uh, would you like to elaborate that question? Because I'm not sure whether I understood it correctly. So when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
talk about transformation, what exactly are you referring to?
So think about it. Just an example that there is a CEO or a senior executive in any of the corporate, right? Suddenly they see a growth happening in their India. Think about in manufacturing and a lot of transformation is going on to the manufacturing. And a startup is doing much more better that one, and he's very keen to join that one or engage with that. So the challenge over
Ah,
here is something, but how he will look into that particular engagement and use all his skills over there to go to the next stage of very vast, fast-moving, versatile kind of environment, and how he can adapt to that one.
right. I think the biggest change is the culture aspect of it, because the fact that the person has an opportunity to move from a corporate world to a startup is because he has the expertise. So the credibility is there, the knowledge is there. It's the culture. Because typically speaking, when we talk about startups, it's all about adapting. Everybody is expected to do everything that is required
Yeah,
in the moment. We never have enough resources. We never had enough resources, even in the corporate structure. Although
Yeah.
it gets all the more worse in a startup
In,
perspective, right? So it's also about having a breadth of knowledge rather than just the depth of knowledge.
yeah.
It's to me, every individual who is in a startup has to think like a businessman. You can no longer think about, okay, I'm a technical guy, or I'm a sales guy, or I'm a finance guy. It's about I'm the businessman, because that's the
Yeah.
expectation one would have, right? There's no bureaucracy to expect that somebody's going to come and ask and wait for your approval. Well, you can keep waiting, giving approval. The things have already been done.
Yeah.
Uh, the mindset of the people is very different. People do not like to be held back. People do not like bureaucratic environment. So, coming from a corporate cultures, I'm not saying people become bureaucratic. The structures need you to be that way. Let's appreciate that. There's no right or wrong here. When you have a certain type of organization structure, you need a certain type of behavior to keep things in control. So I think if I put it in one word, it's more about adjusting to the cultural shift. Everything else just falls into place.
Yeah. I feel that that's the right answer for that one, right? So there is nothing wrong or right. Corporate works in a function. You have to be part of the function. When you're in startup, you have to be agile. You have to be doing everything until goes into a corporate world. Right? But yeah. So, but yeah. mm,
One more
So,
thing I would like to add. Sorry, I'm
yeah.
interrupting you here. One more
Yeah.
thing that I just realized I would like, uh, which many people who have spent a lot of years in corporate have become averse to, is be ready to be questioned. Anyone, everyone at any level can just stand up and question whatever one suggests or recommends or brings as a solution, because that's how startups grow.
Yeah.
It's a whirlpool of ideas. It's a whirlpool of uh, strategies that people come up with, and then you just play around with that. And therefore, there's a lot. So in those terms, I think there's a lot of equality there.
Yeah. True.
They're not, hierarchies are not respected, is what I would say.
And also, the startup is all about finding the gap and finding some solution around that one, right? Corporate is more towards a long-term strategy, how to sustain into the market and how to grow on that one. But I think these are two different way to handle the things over there. Today, startup can be tomorrow's corporate, and possibly they may
Yeah.
also perform the same way the corporates are doing. But we need to see, like, great example is Google. Even if it become from a startup to corporate, it still behaves like a startup only till today. And that's the beauty of being Google, right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll go to a lighter mode because we talked about a lot of strategies and everything. So you also specialize in public speaking and corporate training in today's hybrid world. What and why is executive presence and communication skill more important than ever for leaders?
See, when I talk about knowledge perspective, a lot of things are getting technically solved,
Yeah.
right? Knowledge is available. Information is out there in the world. If you choose to pick up to become an in terms of understanding a particular topic, it's all out available there. Uh, People are getting more and more work done with AI. That's
True.
another aspect. Right? Uh, but the challenge, again, as a leader, is any tool. I would consider AI as a tool which can become an ally. It's like a knife,
Yeah.
right? In the hands of a doctor saves life. In the hands of a killer takes life. So rather than worrying about how there is a knife and it will take away lives, I would look at make it my ally and say, okay, how can I save life with it? So I take that AI as a more sophisticated tool at that, maybe. Uh,
Mhm.
but having said that, when it comes to your strategy, your vision, uh, letting the people know what is it that we want to do, how is it that we want to go about it, I think that's where a leader's importance comes in, and that will always stay. Uh,
Mhm.
And the problem with today's world, especially in the hybrid environment, is like I said, let's talk about this call when we are doing it on Zoom.
Yeah.
When and consider it as a meeting, right? As soon as the meeting time gets over, we all just shut up. That's
Yeah.
it, right? We are gone. But imagine if this was happening in a room. Even after the meeting time is over, we might spend 15 minutes just with one person holding the door half open and still continuing with that conversation.
Hmm.
So if there was something which was not clear, something which was not covered, something which had to be emphasized, there was a opportunity for any one of us to complete that thing. In today's hybrid world, one, the time is a constraint.
Yeah.
Two, uh, fortunately, both of us have our cameras on, and you can make with our eye movements if I'm looking elsewhere or not. But these days, people are not even, and it's a choice, no
Mm.
complaints. But you might have people who have their cameras off. And even if I don't intend to, if my camera is off, it's very easy for me to get distracted. Not that I intend to, but that's
Mhm.
human nature, that's human brain, right? The moment I have my camera off and there is a ping on my phone, which is on my left side right now, uh, I would be tempted to go there. At least the on camera, make sure that if I look there, I know you will know it, right? But imagine if it's a group of 20, any which ways you can't keep an eye on everyone.
Yeah.
So the point is getting the attention of the people, which is getting shorter and shorter by the day in a virtual environment where there are a lot of distractions because in a physical room, at least there is a boundary. Now, here you don't know who's standing there at the door in front of me. Let's say my mom opens a door. I'm going to get distracted,
Yeah.
right? And that's the environment that we are sitting at, even in office for that matter. And I think that's where the executive presence and the challenge is. One, when you are coming to a meeting, are you coming with the mindset, okay, this person is holding the meeting, must be interesting, or there
Mhm.
is some value that I'm going to get in this meeting. Now that gets built over a period of time. Two, in the short 20 minutes or 30 minutes that we have at our disposal, or even if it's a 1 hour meeting, multiple people speaking, am I able to very clearly, very crisply ensure that I have communicated and you have understood, my audience has understood it exactly the way I meant it to be.
Mhm.
And that's why communication has become, has to be more crisp, more articulate. Like we used to study the 7 C's of communication. I think there's no better time to put it to use than now. And I think that's why it has become more important for leaders. You may communicate through different means, mediums, but how do you inspire people? How do you influence people? How do you get them engaged? Is all on the basis of your executive presence, which is a part of your credibility and your the the way you communicate mainly.
True. Good. I think you covered a very border point, saying that now I think our age is the luckiest one who has seen everything, right? They have seen paper-based books, knowledge to some kind of initial stage of internet, going deep into the things over there, and now with the AI which is coming into, right? So, so over the leader who started a bit early like us, like with AI, right? Rapid changes is happening, evolving into the workplaces. How should a leader prepare themselves and their team for the future? And what role does coaching plays in this?
Uh, I think as a if I have to talk about a leader as a coach, right? Because like again, there are two parts to it, right? One is a lot of work is being done by AI, which
Mhm.
means I have people now available to do work which is much more, uh, which needs a lot more human brain to be used. That's something that I can do. But at the same time, I think right now, currently, the other important part is while AI is helping people to do their jobs, it's also causing a lot of stress for a lot of people in terms of what happens to my role, especially if there's someone who believes that they're not going to be able to keep up with the latest technological developments.
Yeah.
It's like when computerization was introduced, every clerk thought or every typist thought that my job is at stake. uh, I don't know what's going to happen for me. So and that's true.
No,
Anytime
so
there's a technology, anytime there's a disruption, I think there is a lot of human emotional upheaval.
yeah.
And so even if you have people using AI, are they using it in the right frame of mind? It's so there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety. And I think that's where the leaders can actually come and be their coach and help them get through this distress that one might be experiencing.
Yeah. So I think
I'm probably looking
again,
at it from the human perspective. As a coach, I'm
yeah.
not getting into the technical aspect of it.
No, no. We are only talking about the human, the way the market is sensing, right? The AI will disrupt everything. But with introduction of AI, something new will come. Like as you said, from typing to computers, we have got some better way of doing the same thing. People who adopted survived, who have not adopted still are doing something with their own skills in a different way. But yeah, there is nothing in the middle, right? They have to either be there or just leave it. Okay, so maybe we are going towards the end of this one. So for aspiring coaches, mid-level managers, or entrepreneurs listening to this one, what three fundamental piece of advice would you give to them to accelerate their leadership growth?
I think the most important is be willing to learn.
Mhm.
And when I say be willing to learn, it's not only about learning how to communicate or learning about the latest things that are happening. I think it's more important to learn how to unlearn, learn
Yeah.
how to relearn, right?
Mm.
Uh, what happens as we grow up the ladder, and especially, and that's a bigger problem with people who have been successful at what they've been doing. And it's very natural to believe that my way is the best way of doing it. And I don't blame anyone for that because that's what has worked and that's how I or you may have achieved success so far.
Yeah.
What a leader now needs to understand is with the changes becoming so rampant, it's much faster, the rate at which changes are happening. What worked for us till yesterday may not be the best possible way today. So I use this example very often. Uh, let's say once in a while I get an opportunity to work in the kitchen. Uh,
Okay.
Normally, my wife wouldn't allow me to. She keeps complaining that I don't help let her do that. And yet, when I say I'll cook, she's like, no, thank you, because you will cook, but who'll take care of the mess that you leave behind. So, never get an opportunity. But yeah, let's say, assume one fine day she's not feeling very good in the morning and she says, okay, do the bare minimum. Three things to be done: make toast, tea, hot tea, and clean up the platform in terms of the vessels that were left to dry yesterday night after washing. Just put them back in place. I walk to the kitchen, and by the time I pick up the vessel for making tea, I hear footsteps behind me, and there is my wife standing at the door. Uh, Now I take water in the pan. I'm about to light the gas, and she's like, "If you make tea first, it will get cold by the time you prepare toast." Fair. And like this, you keep getting two, three instructions. And by the time there is a fourth instruction, I'm like, either let me do it
Okay.
my way or you do it. Just right. Uh, now the question is, it's very interesting though. It's not that my wife is here to find out faults, right?
Yeah.
She has been doing this thing in a particular manner for the last 30 years, day in and day out, and it has worked for her. And in her mind, she's actually trying to help me.
Yep.
But this is where I'm coming from. You have given me 30 minutes, hot tea, warm toast, clean platform. How does it matter if I do all of this while doing Sirsasana
Okay.
or standing on one, right? As long
Interesting.
as I get the so and that's the whole thing. What you are trying, and again, don't get me wrong, I'm not doubting anybody's intention. As a
Yeah. Yeah.
leader, when I have done something successfully, my intention is to help my team member. But for you know, the team member is more comfortable doing it differently. For all you know, your team member knows a better way to do it with the latest of technology that is at his disposal. So, how
Yeah.
about focusing purely on the outcome rather than focusing on the way it needs to be done? So, I think the learning comes from there. That's the one thing that I would talk about.
No,
The second
I,
thing that I would
mhm.
focus on is be yourself.
Yeah.
Learn, you know, I tried to prepare for today's session. When I say prepare in terms of what are the thoughts I should talk about and what are the things I can share with you, right? And I asked ChatGPT, you know me. So why don't you suggest what are the things I must be talking about? I read the answers and I realized I can communicate that very effectively, but that's not me. And I'm sure the ChatGPT would never give me an example that my wife is in the kitchen and she's telling me this, right? so what I've realized is when one is being themselves, that's when you're true to yourself, and only then can you be true to the people around you. And that's when the real trust builds up. Because as a leader, what I need the most is that my people trust me, my team trusts me, and the best way to get that trust is to be yourself.
Great.
So you don't have to be a phony. Just be true to yourself, be true to the people around you. And the third aspect, of course, is that we have harped upon it quite a few times. Learn to how to communicate better. You may be great. Let's see how you can become greater than that.
Great. I think a good example. I think the same kitchen and wife concept can be used in the corporate and startup. Two different culture, two different way of handling things. I think, Arvind, this conversation has been fully, truly enlightening. Your wealth of experience in leadership coaching, combined with practical insight from corporate journey, AI in corporate, offer immense value to our listeners. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and especially a lot of anecdotes coming out of this example. I'll remember for life now. To our listener, if
Thank you.
you find this episode valuable, please subscribe, rate, and show and share it. Fellow leaders and professionals, you can connect with Arvind. We will put his description into the channels wherever we are putting. And thank you for the wonderful time you have given to us. And so, possibly, a last thought from your side, Arvind.
Uh, I will quote this. This is something which is not mine. I've been watching a Apple series called Ted Lasso, and this is for leaders who want to be as coaches. And this is one statement. I'm literally reading it out in front of my screen here. And the quote says, "For me, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young fellows to be the best versions of themselves on and off the field." And if anyone was to ask me if any leader were to follow this philosophy of making sure how I can get the best or help my people to be the best versions of themselves, I think no task is impossible.
Great. I think we are into the fag end. Thanks, Arvind. We cannot thank you much. But hopefully, in years to come, this session will be remembered for a lot of insight into the life and the way forward, right? So great. I think
Thank you
we
so
are
much. It's a
good to.
pleasure to be here.
This is all mine. Thank you for this. So we can get across with that one. And thanks for sharing all the knowledge.